Hello. One of the most frequently asked questions among Christians these days is, which version of the Bible should I use? And that's a great question because in the English-speaking world at least, we are amazingly blessed with more Bible translations and versions than in any other language. But how to sort through them to find the one that works best can be a challenge. Now, before we tackle that question, we need to back up and look at a brief history of the English Bible. It will give us some perspective. Remember that neither the Old nor New Testaments were originally written in English. In fact, the English language, as we would recognize it, was non-existent when these documents were being composed more than 2,000 years ago. English, as we would recognize it, only dates back maybe 500 years. Beyond that, English roots are so different that most people would consider it a separate language, these days at least. The books of the Old Testament were written over approximately 1,000 years, beginning around 1400 BC, with almost all of it written in ancient Hebrew. A few of the later books have passages in the related language of Aramaic. The New Testament was composed in a type of ancient Greek known as Koine, which is Common Greek or Trade Greek, and it was written during the second half of the 1st century AD. Over time, these biblical languages could not be understood by a significant number of God's people, so there were attempts to translate the scriptures into the languages spoken by these people. For instance, in the book of Ezra, Ezra the priest had the Hebrew scriptures translated into Aramaic for the Jews who had been exiled to Babylon for several generations and could no longer speak the native Hebrew of their ancestors. Several centuries later, around 200 BC, other Jewish scholars did the same thing for Jews living in the Greek-speaking lands. The New Testament was originally written in Greek, but was translated in the first several centuries AD into Latin, Ethiopic, Syriac, and other languages that early Christians spoke. The English-speaking people did not officially convert to Christianity until the 600s AD. Along with the rest of Western Europe, they used the Latin Vulgate translation of the Bible in worship, which had become the standard text of the Roman Catholic Church. Consequently, only a tiny few Bible scholars had access to the Bible in its original Hebrew and Greek languages. Due to the Roman Catholic policy of using a uniform version of the Bible among its people and closely guarding those scriptures from misuse by untrained people, centuries went by without any serious attempt to translate the scriptures into English or any other language for that matter. Although King Alfred the Great made translations of various Bible portions into Old English in the late 800s AD, the first successful effort at complete Bible translation was in the 1370s by the priest John Wycliffe. He used the Latin Vulgate as the basis for his work rather than the Greek or Hebrew manuscripts. Now, although Wycliffe's translation was secondhand at best, its major contribution was to create in the common people a hunger for the Bible in their native English. The first attempt to use the original Hebrew and Greek for translation was by William Tyndale in the 1520s. His excellent work was supplemented in the years that followed by other versions, such as the Coverdale Bible, the Geneva Bible, and the Bishop's Bible, which were the first English Bibles to be used for public worship. With the growing influence of Puritanism in the late 1500s and the inheritance of the English throne by James I, there was a renewed desire for a standard English Bible to be used in all Protestant churches. So, King James commissioned this project in 1607 at the Hampton Court Conference with a panel of 50 scholars who worked on the translation for 4 years. This authorized version, more popularly known as the King James Bible, was published for use in 1611 and became the standard for English use for the next 350 years. And it's a remarkable combination of quality translation, given the manuscripts available at the time, and an elegant English style. Okay, with that historical background, I'll bring this first part to a close. Click on the link above for part 2, when I'll talk about the explosion of English Bible versions.